Hello friends, welcome here to my channel. Today we're going to be chatting about things I would not do as a beginner homeschooler. Because, we all have like hindsight. That is fantastic. But these are just personal things that I see other people doing and I also know of myself, and I wish I could have saved myself the pain of some of these things. So if you're interested in hearing what they are, please keep watching. So if you're new here and you're like, who is this lady who is sharing her thoughts and opinions on the subject of homeschooling? I'm Christine. I am a homeschooling mom of 3. My kids are 9, 7, and 5. And I also was homeschooled myself for from when I was like 10, 11, all the way through to graduation. So I've been in the homeschool space for a long time and I really enjoy it. I love chatting about it all the time. And I also love encouraging other homeschool parents to just keep going and just, believing in what you're doing and in your kids. So that is what I share here. If you are interested, please subscribe. And before I go any further, I meant to mention this in some of my other videos this month, and I forgot. I've got a brand new freebie that is available to anyone who wants it, and it is my curriculum compass. Essentially, I made it because I know that there's so much overwhelm when it comes to choosing homeschool curriculum. And if you're a new homeschooler, this is one of like the biggest hurdles you have to jump, is try and figure out where to start. And so I created like a really simple guide on how to pick some basic curriculum for like math and language arts, just like your real beginner subjects. And I've got just a couple of options for each that are, one of them is going to be budget friendly, very budget friendly. And then the other, they're both fantastic curriculums that I've suggested, but one is going to be much more budget friendly. And so if you're interested in that, it will be linked down in the description below. Just go and put your email address and it'll send it to you. And you can have that. And I hope that it is of great help to you. So that is what I wanted to say before I jump into this. But I'm going to pull out my notes here because I actually did write notes about what I would not do as a beginner homeschooler. And some people will look at me and say, well, you are a beginner homeschooler, like your kids are still real young. And I totally get that. I'm still definitely in the early years. I actually stepped back the other day and I was like, I can't believe that we've been homeschooling for as long as we have, because I realized how old our printer was because it was starting to play out. And I was like, we're going to need to replace this soon. And we bought our printer in like 2019. And it's 2024, and that was when I started homeschooling. And I'm just like, that's crazy. Like, how do we get here? So anyway, I'm saying this from a place of love and encouragement, not from a like combative, spot. So just like hear me out on that. So let's just get started. The first thing, this might step on toes, but this is the first thing I'm going to say. As a beginner homeschooler, and actually just as a homeschooler in general, I would not bother defending my choice to homeschool. And I say this as someone who is like in the online content creating space. I see reels all the time on Instagram and like very heated discussions online about homeschooling. And I don't think there's anything wrong about discussing homeschooling and the pros and cons and all that kind of thing. I think open discussion is important. But when it comes to a personal standpoint, like to friends and family and strangers on the street, I just don't think that it is beneficial to waste your time defending your choice. I do think that there is a difference between having a healthy conversation with someone who's genuinely interested in what you're doing, but to defend it just because you want other people's approval, to me, is just like pointless. Like, let the results speak for themselves. Do what you believe is right with your kids and let people think what they want to think. They're going to anyway. And I just think that it's a waste of my time and resources to be defending myself to other people. A lot of the time it's people that I really like, they don't matter in my life. But I do know that there are a lot of people who have family, who are very active and involved in their lives, who have very strong opinions on how they're raising their kids. And to that, I would just say you have to put up your boundaries. They're your kids. You have been given them to raise, no one else. And if people are genuinely interested in hearing your reasons and hearing them, not just like hearing them so they can like retaliate and give you all the reasons that you're wrong, then I think it's worth a conversation. But generally speaking, I just don't think you should spend your time going around and saying like, this is why, or like being overly defensive about it. Like, just don't, like, try not to think about what people think. Honestly, because they're not going to change your minds because you've got like a heated argument to come back with, or a pointed remark or a snarky reply. Like, it just doesn't look good. I just feel like it sometimes comes across as more insecure than anything else. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh my goodness, they're defending their choice to homeschool. Like, I don't think of it like that at all. But, I do think that it can really sap your energy especially at the beginning when you're like trying to pour so much into your kids and like getting started and everything. Focus your attention elsewhere because that will just take care of itself. It really will. Okay, the second thing that I would not do as a beginner homeschooler is feel judged by other people's choices. And I'm not talking about like society at large here. I'm actually talking specifically about the homeschool community. So there's so many loud voices online about the right way to homeschool. And I just find that kind of like silly because the only right way to homeschool is the way that is right for you and your family, So like if anyone's sitting there and like, you're doing it wrong, then I'm kind of like, well, it's kind of like the whole point of homeschooling. But I would just say that if you want to do school at home with your kids and that works well for you, then do school at home with your kids. If you want to do Charlotte Mason homeschooling and you love it and it works well, then do Charlotte Mason homeschooling. If you want to take a classical approach to your education, do that. If you want to do unschooling and you can do that well with your kids, then do that. And do it unapologetically and without caring what other people think. Are you getting, like, there's already a common theme here. Like, let's not worry what other people think about what we're doing. But we can sort of take on the opinions of others and feel like they are judging our choices. When in reality, most homeschool parents are so busy just parenting and homeschooling, we're not really paying attention to how other people are doing it. So just stand firm in what you're doing, but also it's okay to change. Like the way I started homeschooling is different to how I homeschool now. I started off with more of a Charlotte Mason approach. That's how I thought I was going to go. And I'm leaning more traditional in a lot of subjects now. And that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's good to hear people's opinions when you're struggling with something and you need help. But if you're not struggling and everything's going well, then don't try and fix what ain't broken, So I hope that you can just feel encouraged to stand firm in what you believe is right for you and your kids, because honestly, there's a lot of freedom in that. Okay, the next thing I would not do as a beginner homeschooler is sign up for a plethora of activities. Now, there is a huge range of what people consider busy and what people consider slow, how many activities a family is happy to do and how many activities a family is not happy to do. Like every family is going to be different on this. And there's nothing wrong with your kid being in a lot of activities if it works for your kid and if it works for your family. However, I would recommend not signing up for a bunch of activities with the mentality of I need to socialize my child. Because the reality is that is not real socialization. And what can end up happening I see it a lot in beginner homeschoolers is there's just burnout because you're running yourself ragged, feeling like you have to like hit every nail on the head and that you have to like live up to. It's almost like, again, it comes from a place of insecurity. Like society tells me this is why my kid's going to be weird because I'm homeschooling them and therefore I have to overcompensate by doing all of these things. And that's just not true. Your kid can be very well socialized and they don't have to be in a ton of activities to do that. So I just want to say, like, if you're feeling burnt out by that or like that is your mentality and like booking them into all these activities that they need to like be socialized and have all these different experiences, I would just encourage you to step back and really analyze that to see if it is true. From my experience, it is not true. I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing activities with your kids. My kids are signed up to activities. We don't do a lot, but they are signed up to some things. But I don't believe that my kids' socialization comes from that. Sometimes it can help a little bit more of a well-rounded socialization in the sense that they're being exposed to different people from different walks of life and stuff like that. But they can certainly experience that in other ways. It doesn't have to be through organized activities. Organized activities are a very modern generation thing. And I might step on some toes by saying this, but I do believe that a lot of the time it's become what it is because parents are so much busier working. And so there's a sense of guilt. And I don't mean to like, I'm not being specific toward anyone about this. I think this is society in general has been led to believe that this is what we need to do to be good parents because, we can't spend as much time with our kids. And the reality, a lot of people do have to work a lot longer and, that kind of thing. That's just life. And I feel very privileged and blessed not to have to work outside of the home. So I'm not casting, blame or guilt or anything like that on working parents. It's just the realities of life. But I do think it's a lie that we have to sign up our kids in order to like offset that or balance it out. The reality is quality time with our kids like trumps any organized activity. So I just wanted to encourage you with that. Your kid's not going to suffer if they're not going to dance class and gymnastics and, whatever sport, it's fine if they're not doing a million things and they will be well socialized regardless. You can get out there and do things. And also I'm definitely leaning into the fact more and more, the longer I homeschool, the more I'm like, I don't care if my kids turn out weird. It's who they are. Like, aren't we all really weird? And like just being in societal norms, like pressures us to like fit into a specific mold. As long as my children know how to like get themselves through society, like throughout society, they know how to go into a store and purchase something. They know how to make a phone call. They can speak politely and eloquently with people, then I'm good. They're exposed to all sorts of different walks of life through lots of different means. I have traveled outside of the country I live in, and I hope to do that with my kids when we have the budget for it in the future. There are lots of ways to expose our children to the outside world, and we can do that through reading and books and movies. There's lots of different ways to do it. So just think outside the box. Socialization, we know that good socialization does not have to come from being in a classroom with, 30 other kids 5 days a week. That is not real life when you're an adult. And so it's okay to not have to like emulate that in your homeschool. I hope that comes across the right way because I'm not anti people who want to do lots of activities. If that works for them, that's fine. But it's just the mindset behind it. I guess I just want to give you permission to not have to sign your kid up to a million things in order to be well socialized. All right, we're up to number 4. And the fourth thing I would not do as a beginner homeschooler is overload our curriculum. So it's very tempting at the beginning to see all the shiny, pretty objects, i.e., all of the homeschool curriculum choices out there in the world, because there are a lot now, and feel like you need to do everything. And there will be a time to do things, but even now, after homeschooling for like 5 years, I have to like shuffle things around and pick from different things to put on our plate because the plate gets full and I can't fit anything more on it. And so we cannot do all the things all of the time. And like I've been doing this for a few years now and I still have to be careful about how much I put into our schedule. So I would just really encourage you as a beginner homeschooler to start with your very basic core subjects and then just slowly build on those. So start with math and language arts and just do those to start with. And once you've got your footing with those, then add more into it. Because the reality is you can get overworked and overwhelmed quite quickly. And depending on the ages of your kids, it's a lot of mental energy on you as the teacher. I mean, my kids, I've said it, are 9, 7, and 5. And I am tired. Come lunchtime when we're done our school for the day, my brain is like, I have put in work just like they have. And so it's important that you just build up slowly. If you come from the school system, it's a totally different way of life, and you just need to slowly step into that instead of like trying to like go from one extreme to the other. Just build on it slowly. This is something that often homeschoolers do as well, even seasoned homeschoolers at the beginning of the school year. Instead of just jumping into all subjects straight away, they start with just a couple, and every week they add in a new one until they've got their whole, menu planned out. But it's just like a gentle roll into it. So that would be my 4th tip. And then my 5th and final tip that I would recommend beginner homeschoolers do not do is assign yourself to a homeschool style. And I know I definitely tried to do this, and I think it's kind of impossible, because how do you know what your homeschool style is before you've started homeschooling? Like, you can kind of have an idea of what you sort of relate to, but the reality is you don't know until you try. And so I love the idea of Charlotte Mason homeschooling. I love the idea of literature-based learning. And we do it in our sort of like extra stuff, in our supplemental things, we do it in our history. So I like, outside of language arts and math, I love Charlotte Mason. But in language arts and math, I like traditional. I just do. I like workbooks. I like teacher guides. I like comprehension questions. It's just how I work. And yet when I was a beginner homeschooler, I was like, I'm going to be Charlotte Mason. This is me, And so I just think it is really wise to not feel like you have to pick something and then just go with that. Because we are, people are not one-dimensional. We have lots of different likes and interests and dislikes and stuff, and that feeds into your homeschool. And you also have kids that are different from you and from each other, and so you also have to take that into consideration. So when you're going ahead and, looking at curriculum and things, you can certainly look at things that you like and enjoy, but just don't feel like you've made a decision and now like you're like, oh no, I actually hate this, but I'm going to carry on with it. Or like, this does not work for our family at all, but I said I am this kind of homeschooler, and so I'm going to keep going with it. Or your kid's just not thriving with it at all, and you still like doggedly carry on because nope, this is what we are. This is a method that we're using. I think that we should be able to pull from what works and discard the rest. And it's great to have methods. I don't think any method is a bad method. I will never be an unschooler in the pure sense of unschooling, but I don't think it's a bad way to teach your children. When you're intentional and you're good at it, I think it's fantastic. And that will never be me. I'm just not an unschooler. I can see elements of unschooling in our life, in our day-to-day life, but it is certainly nothing that I would ever like assign myself to. There are elements of Charlotte Mason homeschooling that I really enjoy. There are elements of classical homeschooling that I enjoy, and there are methods of traditional homeschooling that I enjoy. So I'm like, after saying I am not a certain style, I'm definitely eclectic. Let's put it that way. But I think that the reality is more of us are eclectic than anything else if we gave ourselves permission to be so. So if you're a brand new homeschooler and you see those quizzes on what kind of homeschooler you are, it's fine to take them for fun. But I would also just encourage you not to feel like you have to fit into that box. Just do what works for you and your kids. And that will be the best style of homeschooling that you could possibly have. So those are my 5 tips for what I would not do as a beginner homeschooler. I'm really interested if you have anything to share down below, if you're a more seasoned homeschooler. And if you found this helpful, do let me know down in the comments below. Also, any questions, always happy to answer what I can. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
What if the world had more of your smile? What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no wars,